Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so uh, NBA finally got a trade going with Donovan Mitchell going to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it got my mind going down a different rabbit hole as I was listening um, to Jason. I wish I knew how to say his name. Tim. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say the man's name, but he does a fantastic job of breaking down what we see there. Forgive me if this fan is very loud, but it's incredibly hot in this room right now. It's got to be at least 85 degrees in my apartment with the windows open. But nevertheless, so as he was breaking it down, it just took me down a rabbit hole as he was explaining Danny Ainge, and where basically Danny Ainge had played hardball for many years with the Boston Celtics and never made the big deal, but ultimately, he was in a position to have that reputation as he got this new position with Utah, and it worked in his favor. And that's exactly uh, where my mind just kind of went, oh, content. Essentially, where my mind went is this is why you remain strong in your negotiations uh, to the very end in a lot of cases. Now this is not advice as it pertains to what I think people should do in every situation. No, it's situational. It's fluid. It depends on what you're looking at. It depends on what's best. But what I'm saying is, for a GM, if you know you're holding a good hand and you happen to lose the trade, um, duel like the Knicks did today, just lost the trade. You didn't win the nego. What do you call that? You didn't win the duel or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that you should consider yourself having failed if you know you played the hand correctly. Because a lot of times you can win that trade and do damage to your reputation. You know what I mean? Because you've made the wrong move. Now, I don't know that the Knicks wouldn't have quickly jumped at another type of deal if Danny Ainge would have come back to the table and said, I'm willing to do so for a bunch of picks. I'm pretty sure they would have given 5+ picks for Donovan Mitchell and a bunch of players and everything else. But the key was they were going to force the Jazz to not um, have control over R.J. Barrett's finances, I guess you could say, over what he was going to be making in the cap. And that ultimately was a deal breaker. I think at the end of the day, with the Knicks having overplayed their hand, they learned a hard lesson. And that is, if you're going to bluff, you got to make sure that there isn't something else in place that can ultimately trump what you have. And they did that, they let that happen. But I'm not so sure this wasn't the best move for them, because the vision that they had, I don't think was good enough to win. It was going to be mighty expensive. The fit wasn't all that great, etc. It's just probably best that this didn't happen anyway. So while everybody's killing Leon Rose for not getting this deal done, I think I actually want to applaud him and the New York Knicks for drawing a line in the sand, because I do believe that they assessed their basketball situation properly. That's basically what I'm saying. I've been on this camera saying, yes, all of the different things that people are saying about the Knicks have to do with fans being impatient and wanting them to bring a star to their team now and all of this. But if it doesn't lead to them winning, you're just going to further be upset. You're not going to make them happy. You know what I mean? And I think the Knicks made a decision to not mortgage their future, understanding that what they were building ultimately wasn't going to be good enough to satisfy the fans. Now, some could say paying RJ Barrett 120 wasn't the move. I haven't given enough thought to that. I really haven't. So I'm not certain where I stand on that, but I do think it could be considered questionable, I guess is where I'm at, having not done thought on it. But I can appreciate where they said, you know what, this is a player that we drafted, that we believe in, we want, and if Utah wants him, it's going to be on our terms. It's not going to be at some discount to themselves. I think they're going to live to be to be happy that they've made that move. The opposite of regret. You know, people say they're going to live to regret that. I think they're going to live to appreciate they didn't do that. I ain't going to say they dodged the bullet because I don't. I guess. I guess from a standpoint of, since I didn't think it was good enough to win, I guess you could say they dodged a bullet, but I don't think it would have been a failure or anything like that. I don't think we would have saw a repeat of the Knicks back in the early 2000s, Steve Francis and Stephon Marbury. I don't think it would have been that bad or nothing like that. I think they would have been pretty good. Maybe even good enough to feel good about the team, but I just don't think that Knicks fans' patience level should be the driving factor for moves that are going to affect the team long term. I just think you have to be more methodical and less reactive to the moment if you really want to build a New York Knicks NBA championship team. I don't think you can do it plastering together 2 or 3 really, really great players and just asking them to run. I don't. I think you look over at Brooklyn and clearly see how much trouble they're having doing so. It's just not something that you can really see yourself winning doing, especially as you see teams building. Look at what Cleveland just did. You know, the Knicks would not have been able to keep up with that type of length, and even more so now. You just look at the bad contracts that the Knicks have and you say, the most important thing for the New York Knicks is not to be looking to acquire Donovan Mitchell per se. It's probably more so about getting rid of Julius Randle and Evan Fournier. Like if you're truly trying to build something that you really, really think is going to work for yourself, maybe you bring in Jalen Brunson, maybe because he's an early piece that you think you can get at a discount. So if you love him that much, okay. But Donovan Mitchell, nah, you got to be a little more patient. I think Jalen Brunson's timeline doesn't require that you expedite the win now situation that soon. You don't have to win right now with Jalen Brunson. Yes, he was in the Western Conference Finals just now, but his age. It's the first year of his deal. It's not imperative that you guys just have to have Donovan Mitchell in place right now. You can afford to play the long game, acquire some talent this season by maybe getting a little worse or getting a little lucky or whatever, letting some G League guys come up, letting Toppin get a little older, letting Grimes get a little older, letting Quickly get a little older, so that you can have a little more talent in place to bring yourself more organic superstar caliber talent instead of trying to force your way to get in there. So I always say about the Nets, when you're in New York, unlike a lot of these teams like Utah, like Cleveland, you have the advantage of maybe someone wanting to come play for you just because you're in New York. Now, granted, they haven't had a lot of success in that regard. I know that it's because they haven't been doing things the right way. See what I'm saying? It's because they haven't been thinking the way I've just been describing for the last 8 minutes. Had they been doing so, they would be an attractive place to play. Because New York is an attractive place to live. It's just very expensive, so if I'm going to be there, I got to win. That's the point. That's why they can't get people there, because it's too expensive. I can go to Miami with no sales tax. You see what I'm saying? Why am I trying to go to New York? I'd rather go to your rival. Have a better chance of winning, and ultimately have a better opportunity to make money. So, although you can make more money in New York in some ways, the taxes are going to kick your backside in. The real estate's going to kick the other side of your backside in. So that's just how that goes, man. Got to be there for a reason, want to win. If you look at Golden State, it's just as expensive, but people don't mind because they're winning. So these are things that really work into the equation. That's why I encourage the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks to just start the process of doing things properly. I think the Knicks are really in an advantage, a good position because they have quick lead, because they have Grimes, because they have Top, because they have a bunch of picks that if you look up today, yeah, they don't have Donovan Mitchell, but they still got 1 million picks. And I'm telling you, strange things happen in life, New York. It's not the wildest thing in the world that you guys get lucky with one of those picks and land the big guy next year. It's not crazy. You didn't get Zion. You didn't get LeBron back in the day. You didn't get any of these people, all of them. You never got none of them. Except for Carmelo. and a few others, Amari, Stoudemire. But let's just be honest. You're ready for some big time luck. And I'm telling you that you're in a much better position to be lucky today for not making the trade for Donovan Mitchell than you would have having made the trade. I know this. I don't think it. I'm positive of it. And the Knicks have had a lot of bad luck. I just don't think it's going to last forever. This was yet another day where it looked like bad luck. But I don't actually believe that was the case. I actually think it was the opposite of bad luck. I think they just avoided a big mistake. I really do believe that. I think they avoided a big mistake. That draft equity is going to pay dividends down the road. And having thrown it away for an opportunity at that vision, with that they'll soon find out, if they haven't already, wasn't the vision to have. Woo! You thought Knicks fans were upset? They would have been much more upset when they saw that played out. Now, at this point, the worst thing that they're looking at in their situation is their cap situation because of those bad contracts. And maybe the fact that they just signed another contract to add to that maybe you don't love too much in RJ. I just wish the Knicks would get out of their own way in regards to the situation. You can, excuse me. And I want to say this very carefully because RJ deserves to be paid. But if they paid RJ with the intention of hoping that they would be able to trade him at that price to the Utah Jazz for Donovan Mitchell, boy, was that a horrible decision. I can't stress that enough. For the execution of trying to get Donovan Mitchell, boy, that's an F-. You couldn't have played that worse. You could not have played that worse. You know what I mean? The only way this actually is good is if they actually really truly want to completely remove him from the trade table. And if that was the case, with all due respect, New York, he should have never been on the table. And as I read tea leaves, you guys know me, I could place things in positions. Maybe they're not there like that, but if I'm RJ's representation in that situation, I'm telling them that's going to cost you. It's going to cost you more because you're putting him in these trade rumors. You're trying to send him to Utah? Yeah, no, we're not. We want to do a deal with the Knicks. So if we were going to go for 100, we're probably going to go for 120 now. You see what I'm saying? It's like those type of things. I respect Leon Rose is a new GM. You know what I mean? The Knicks are trying to learn the game. But this is just one of those situations where, having had a franchise make so many mistakes for so long, you can't have a novice in place making these type of decisions. Because if things look the way that they look to me, the Knicks' vision wasn't executed because they just played the game wrong. Not necessarily because they came to some conclusion that their basketball vision wasn't worth paying for, like I have. But just simply because they messed up in how they played their hand, and that's just unacceptable, man. It's too much on the line. You know, when we talk about the Knicks fans being, impatient, doing things incorrectly will really mess with their patience. And it ain't about the execution necessarily of whether or not they should want Donovan Mitchell. It's just knowing that they have a GM in place that isn't handling business correctly. And if they would have had a Danny Ainge, or if they would have had a this or that different type of GM, they would have their vision in place, regardless if they're better off for it or not. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal. So I don't know if James Dolan is unhappy with Leon Rose, because he is new to this, and this is a science. And by all means, you have to understand, if anybody's going to be jumping into this game at this point, they're going to have to learn on the fly certain things. It's just part of it. I think what the NBA needs to do is create an entire school for this stuff and send those people through that school, and then they can be eligible to be GMs, and then you won't have some of these error issues. But a lot of this stuff, again, you have to realize in real time. Some of the stuff we're learning as the game changes in real time. So it's like, my thing is not necessarily to teach this system, but more so change it. But for the time being, this could have set the Knicks back 5-6 years. After you talk about the Timberwolves and that Rudy Gobert thing, I think that set them back 7-8 years. I mean, like, only time will tell if it's as bad as I think it is. But I do think it is that bad. I think the Knicks would have been horrible if they actually gave away all these picks for Donovan Mitchell. Excuse me. Knowing that the fit didn't work, knowing that they would have to move pieces around that would be difficult to move in order to make the fit work. Again, Fournier and Randall, they're hard to get rid of, man. So if you're going to bring Donovan Mitchell to you, you're going to have to make that work. That's the problem. That is the problem. So I don't know. I think the Knicks dodge a bullet, but I do think James Dolan's going to have to assess what he sees there. Nothing to be excited about, to be honest. Nothing to be excited about. They completely dropped the ball, it seems. And not only that, but probably overpaid for RJ Barrett when they probably didn't have to. And that's just a hunch. Because I look at that 120, I'm like, look, I like RJ Barrett a lot, man. He's become a very consistent scorer. He's starting to remind me of a Carmelo Anthony kind of guy or Wilson Chandler. You can just count on him to give me 20 or more points now every night. Where I'm looking for him to grow is in other aspects of his game. I think it's coming too. His rebound is coming along. As his conditioning comes even more so into play, maybe he can become more reliable. We can count on him to play more games. But I like RJ Barrett a lot. I just don't know if I'm giving him 120. I don't think so. Not yet. Not the same day Young Bull gets 75 for the same amount of years. That's a hell of a discrepancy. And I know Young Bull's coming off the knee. If Young Bull wasn't coming off the knee, how much more do I like RJ Barrett than Young Bull? Different positions, not comparing the players, we're just looking at value as simply as possible. I don't know that I do. Depending on the situation, obviously, because games, basketball is situational, but like in 9 out of 10 situations, I don't know that I'm taking RJ over Young Bull each and every one of them times. I don't know that. Depending on what I'm building. So to have that much of a discrepancy in the pay, as the league is reacting to other things, since nobody could move, given the fact that Rudy Gobert was traded for 1 million picks, I have to assume they're reacting to that in those two situations. And I just don't know if I feel that way. I don't know if I feel that way from the New York Knicks. In fact, I know I don't. Not for it to be to that degree on the cap. See what I'm saying? It's not about the dollar amount. You can give a guy $1 billion. I'm happy to see it, but you have to understand 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. That's a lot of money that can go into different areas to make your team better. And that's why Utah ultimately wasn't going for that contract, you guys. That's it. It's not that they said, RJ at 120. No, he's not going to do that for us. He's not going to pay 120 of basketball, $120 million worth of basketball for us. That's not what they're thinking. What they're thinking is, Utah, we are a young team. We're rebuilding. We're hoping to bring in rookie contracts that are going to dictate the majority of what it is that we do. So think Christian Wood in Houston. Essentially, that's what they would be picking up in RJ Barrett, a player that they're going to want to trade once they get those rookies in place, and that timeline is the majority of what it is that they're doing. See what I'm saying? Because that's not going to align with RJ Barrett. They're going to end up paying RJ Barrett after this contract, having already had that contract in place, and then those other guys are going to be up for extension. If you look at what OKC is going through, having to give away Roby, You don't want to be in that situation, and you can see that happening because you're hoarding picks. You're Utah. You hired Danny Ainge. He's the guy that created all of that nonsense. Sam Presti's just copying him. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like the hoarding picks thing is what he does. So you don't want to have contracts in place that are going to put you in a position to have headaches down the road. And the Knicks, if they had a more savvy GM, that would have been in the forefront of his mind, and he would have never, ever signed R.J. Barrett before knowing that Donovan Mitchell was completely off the table. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't guarantee R.J. Barrett that 120 if you're not able to trade for Donovan Mitchell. But until you're sure he's off the table, you do not sign him to nothing. Not in attempts to bluff the other team, and certainly not in attempts to satisfy his representation while you're trying to trade him. Hell no. That is just the wrong decision. You just played it the wrong way. That's not how you do it. This is what the same thing I'm talking about in regards to the Lakers and the 2 picks. I'm not giving those to Utah for Bogdanovich and Conley or something. I don't want any of that stuff. Not really. Those are bad contracts. Just to get Russell Westbrook off the books? No. I want Russell Westbrook's contract. Why? Because I want it for Kyrie Irving. I need that salary to match Kyrie. Now, I know they don't want Westbrook. I know they don't even want us to know they want to trade Kyrie, but I know that they're going to have to get to a point where they're going to have to trade Kyrie. I already know that. Whether they like it or not, they're not going to want to pay him. So they have to trade him. He's an expiring contract at $36 million. You can't let that walk. So we've talked about this a million times, and I understand it. So I'm telling the Lakers, I know how things look, but let's play this correctly. You know you have a bigger piece on the table. You know you have the clock on your side because LeBron James has signed his extension. So we don't need to give 2 picks away or even 1 pick away for Utah's bad contracts just to get rid of Russell Westbrook. No, Russell Westbrook is a piece that we hold on to because he's the piece that can acquire us the piece that we want. That's it. That is all. And Russell Westbrook is going to be a part of what we do, and hopefully we shut him down because that's most logical to me. But, you know what I mean? That's what we hold on to him until Brooklyn's ready to play ball. And then we hold them 2 picks in hand, and we see what happens. Because at the end of the day, we have the leverage on Kyrie because we know he wants to be here. You know? And look, you also understand this. Brooklyn, even though they don't really, maybe this is not something that they're thinking about yet, but I am. Kyrie Irving, they can't afford for him to get hurt, man. Like, literally, they can't afford for him to get hurt no more than the Los Angeles Lakers can afford Russell Westbrook to get hurt. It cannot happen because these are expiring contracts at this price. So while they're talking about starting and running, we're going to get out there and run. If they know what they're doing, if they actually know what they're doing, they're going to consider trying to trade him before the season starts so that there's no chance of him getting hurt. Because if he gets hurt, he's of no use to the Lakers. We need him as a player, not as an expiring contract for any reason whatsoever. See what I'm saying? So the importance of Kyrie Irving to the Lakers is him healthy on an expiring contract. If he's not, nah. And the Brooklyn Nets need to guard against that. They need to understand that. Or they're going to kind of go into the situation and say, we're going to win a championship. No, you're not. You know you're not. Not with those guys, because you're going to have to break the team up at the halfway mark. Whether you're doing well or not, you can't let Kyrie walk. And you probably, and I say probably, because I don't know. Maybe they changed their mind. But you're too stubborn to pay him. And I think if you're going to pay him, it's smart to pay him before the start of the season. So you don't have any controversy surrounding the situation. That's when you can really have the whole team focus in on winning an actual championship this season because you have nothing looming over the team. So in my mind, Joe Tsai and those guys, the smart way to play this is to pay Kyrie Irving right now if you're actually going to keep him. Remove the issues. If you know you need him as a piece and you know he's going to help you win and you know you have KD for 4 years and you know you don't want to trade him to the Lakers and you know nobody else is going to want him, then the only logical thing to do is to pay the man. Am I tripping? You going to send him to any other team? What is he going to say when he gets there? I want to go to the Lakers. I'm leaving, y'all. I'm an expiring contract for you too. But you going to wait until the deadline for that? You're not going to be able to trade him anywhere but the Lakers. the whole the whole league's gonna know that. Nah, I ain't trading for him because we ain't gonna be able to keep him. He's not gonna resign here. He's leaving. And I'm not sure if he's gonna want to play for us because he's gonna be unhappy because we know he wants to go to the Lakers. It could be that type of dynamic. Now, maybe he changes his mind. Maybe he wants to go to a different team at that point. Maybe he wants to stay with the Brooklyn Nets at that point. But if they're going to put these contingencies in place, him wanting to stay with the Brooklyn Nets is just going to be him having to swallow his pride in regards to that. As we talk about every day. We talk about this every day. So, in looking at the situation, I just said, hey, if we're playing it correctly, we're going to do no deal with Utah, taking back Bogdanovich and Conley to complete the team so we can be kind of decent. Nah, that's like the Knicks trading for Donovan Mitchell and being kind of good, and that's it. That's all they're going to be. Nah, I'm not doing that. LeBron didn't sign his extension for that. No, he signed his extension to get reunited with Kyrie Irving and play with him and Anthony Davis for NBA championships. Multiple NBA championships, if you ask me. Two tries at it. After that, I'm pretty sure he's going to want to play with his kid, maybe in Cleveland. That's kind of... You know what I mean? It's kind of what the tea leaves are showing me. So I don't think the Lakers are going to do anything. I think if they're smart, they're not going to do anything. I think if Brooklyn's smart, they're going to crap or get off the pot. And I think if New York's smart, they'll assess Leon Rose and thank their lucky stars this didn't happen. That's what they need to do. That's definitely what they need to do. Because I don't know about Leon. I don't know, man. If I'm the New York Knicks, it's not about him doing a bad job or nothing like that. It's just like having a young player. You got to wait on the learning curve. It's not that I don't believe in you. It's just I have time to wait on you. If I'm the New York Knicks and I'm assessing things the way it seems like they're assessing things, to where fans are irritated and they run out of time, then that's the next way to look at it. That's the most logical way to look at it is, can Leon Rose get me the stuff that I need at the timeline that I want it? The answer is, not if he's making moves the way it looked like he's making them today. Not if he's effectively avoiding the plan. Playing hardball the wrong way. This is what it looks like. Don't have to be that way, but this is what it looks like. And I'm not the only one saying that, unfortunately. I'm not saying you just quicken up and fire your GM, but what I am saying is the Knicks need, just like I said, the Nets they need sharks. They need people who are already seasoned in this game. That's basically what I'm saying. It's not about, let me get a hot shot new guy who doesn't necessarily know it, but we're gonna give him an opportunity. This ain't the market for that. That's the problem. It's not a market for a rookie to be a part of. You got to know what you're doing, like for real, or you're gonna get knocked out by somebody who does. That's what we're seeing. Kobe Altman just played the game better. He ain't in New York, but he needs to be. That's what I'm saying. So that's the type of thing, like, that's it. That's all there is to it. It's a tough job. I don't envy these guys. I don't think I would be great at it because it's not just about knowing what you're looking at. It's about having the gall and the ability to sit through it and to be able to execute when it's rough. So it's not as simple as understanding what you need to do. It's being able to block out the noise in some cases. So I get it. Sometimes it's hard to get good decisions. Sometimes it's hard to see everything. But if you're ahead of the Knicks, you know what I'm saying? You cannot overplay your hand. You cannot assume that just because your interest is to acquire Donovan Mitchell, that interest is going to be shared with the person on the other side of that. I think that's almost how he played it. It's like, well, clearly we want Donovan Mitchell. It's almost like he felt they had pressure on Utah's end to send him Donovan Mitchell because of the media speaking about, like, they don't care nothing about that in Utah, bro. Like, they're not moved by that. Just because everybody's talking about Donovan Mitchell going to the Knicks. If the Knicks don't have the right deal, I'm going to send him to Cleveland, bro. I don't care. Like, my interest is the Utah Jazz. So either you're going to give me the price to what it is that I have, or you will miss out on that and you're going to talk to your fans and you're going to have to figure out why that happened. And that's what it is, man. Look, I just feel like Sometimes people, when they have their mind set on what it is they want, they almost lose sight of how important it is to others that they get what they want. It's like, no, bro, that's your priorities. That ain't mine. You need to get Donovan Mitchell. What you also need to do is make sure you have the right price tag for it. So that's how I see that, man. That's gotta have a shark in place. So that's what I see. That's really all I wanted to say, man. I think Danny Ainge in playing hardball with the Boston Celtics, and what I mean by that is making sure that he kept his price tag high for everything, and ultimately not getting the big deal done, so to speak. Put him in a position to have the reputation that he has right now to get the big deal done. He used that hard ball stance as a jab like a boxer would, if that makes any sense. Whether he landed or not, he threw it enough times to where you know now that jab is coming. You're going to respect that jab. That price tag is high. You're going to respect that price tag. And eventually, he kept it hardcore and kept his chest high and said, look, this is how everything goes. I don't care about the market. I don't care about anybody else. My price is high. Everybody said no to him for many years until the Minnesota Timberwolves. He found one. He found one. Somebody that would adhere to all of that strength that he had been holding on to for so many years and never did him any justice. He finally was able to capitalize on that one move that made him a legend. And that's exactly what this is going to be. That Rudy Gobert move, it's going to age very well if you ask me. It's going to age very well for him and terribly for the Timberwolves, as we've already said. But, you know, this is why it's important to keep that strength. You don't ever let up. You don't ever play these games wrong. You know what I'm saying? You don't ever mismanage your situation, because once you have that reputation of being a sucker, people will continue to play you as one. They'll never take you seriously. You'll never get a good deal. They'll always try to play you as that team that we know we can fleece. That's why Sacramento has a hard time getting good deals, because they made so many bad ones over the years. Now people expect the bad deals to be made by them. So it's like, oh, let me give them the worst deal. I ain't going to give them a deal that I would offer Danny Ainge. I'm going to give them a deal that I would offer a child and expect them to take it. Like, you got to shake off that moniker. And I think the Knicks are kind of going to be dealing with that going forward, which is why I'm saying assess Leon Rose, because once you start taking on that, it's the opposite of that Danny Ainge jab. You start taking on jabs, punches of your own. People start hitting you with terrible deals and don't want to do nothing right for themselves, for you rather, to help yourself. So it is what it is, man. Just continuing to learn as this game goes along. It teaches so much. You know, it's funny. I listen to people talk about they're teaching the game of basketball, and what I know and understand about the game of basketball is you're only teaching the latest version of it. You're not actually teaching the way to play. No. Because you'll have a guy like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar come in and bust up everything you know. Now, the way to play doesn't work because this dude is shooting hook shots over his head at 7'1", or Steph Curry shooting the ball from 50 feet away and hitting every one of them. Like, these are the type of things where it's like there's no real actual way to play basketball. It's just a bunch of people creating on the fly and then a bunch of people reacting to it because they have to in defense of their own basket. That's literally what it is. And as people continue to create new awesomeness, defenses create new ways to define the game of basketball. This is how to play. But to actually behold the greatness of the game of basketball, I'm starting to realize there is no real way to actually behold it. It's fluid, situational. You know what I mean? It's like this connects to that, but you don't even realize this connects to that until you see that, and then you realize this connects to that. And there's so many different variations of this in basketball till I realize there's no real right way to play. It's just who's going to come in and show us the next variation of what it is we have to react to. And as they do, how awesome is it going to look? And how normal are the new variations of basketball going to become for the next generation? As to where now everybody's doing step backs. Guys couldn't do step backs back in Jordan's day. It was travel. Guys weren't practicing that stuff. They didn't have that type of footwork because it didn't exist. But somebody came in and created it. Whether it be in Europe or somewhere else, as the game continues to spread, new people bring new things to the game, and we have new ways of playing, how to play, the right way to play. This is how you do that. That is how you do that. No, 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 no. Someone created that somewhere, and someone else took it and also brought it into their game and incorporated it into their game. And so many different variations of that have taken place. So if you understand that, then you project forward where the game is going, and you can imagine that artists are going to be coming in and busting up these different defenses, and different lengthy players are going to be coming in and busting up the three-point logic. And it's just so much difference that can take place, and so many different ebbs and flows that artists and superhumans are going to help cater to the evolution of basketball. So as I understand it to be a science and an art form, I also understand that I don't understand it at all, but I'm learning to get my understanding of the updated version of what it is that I'm looking at. And I'm telling you, we're in a good place right now, and it's only getting better. So as I learn, I'll continue to share, and I thank you guys for checking out BDF 44 once again, and I think that'll do it for this evening. I'm out.